Hello, everybody. Today, spend some time explaining the meaning of this notation, mathematics, notation symbols. When you learn calculus, the textbook doesn't explain very well. Okay, now we are going to clarify the meaning of everything you encounter in calculus. First of all, delta x. Delta x is some increment, right? So you have a x and y, and function like that, you take x and increment delta x. Okay, so it's going to be y, and this increment is going to be delta y. Okay, so that's easy, right? It's a Greek letter delta. That's an increment. Okay, now dy dx equals, if this is function is fx f prime x. What does it mean? Okay, when you take a derivative, you have a slope function, and slope is m, and this is m, and dy dx is actually dy divided by dx equals m. Now, what is dy and dx? They are also increment, but it's not along with this fx function. It's along with this slope function. So you take dx, then dy is here. This is a dy, not here. This is delta y. Okay, so you have to know it's d is same increment, but increment of what? Increment of f prime x. This is a linear equation here, and since this is a slope only, you need a b to be linear equation, and this is not given. That means you have to move the coordinate origin to this point and make a new coordinate dx and dy, and this equation means in this new coordinate it's a linear function without b. Okay, that's what it is. This divide by this. And sometimes you see this kind of notation. And what is this stuff? This means same as this. Means derivative function of fx. Okay, in English it said derivative function of fx, which is we use prime, right? So don't get confused. This is not d divided by dx. No, it's just the symbol, derivative function of some function, and that is f prime x. Okay, it's very confusing. They shouldn't use this kind of notation. It just confused student, but they just use it in the textbook without explaining anything, right? So when you say dfx, what does it mean? This is same as derivative function multiplied by dx, because this is dy, right? So very clear how to use this symbol. There's no confusion. Okay, now integral, you have fx dx. what is integral? This integral, in the previous video I explained a little bit. Integral means the function, let's say capital Fx, the function which you take a derivative become Fx. That's what it is. Okay? And since this is dy, you can write it this way. So this integral means find this y. Okay? That's the meaning. Find this y. The y is, in this case, capital Fx. And you take a derivative, y prime is Fx in this case. Right? Okay? So this means simply find the y, this one, because dy is Fx dx, right? Here. Okay? So this simply means find y. Okay? Simple enough? There's nothing magic about integral, right? But in the previous video I explained integral has two different meanings. This is called indefinite integral. That's the meaning. Definite integral. This definite one, that one is the n equals limit and some kind of function delta x, or some kind of quantity divided by n and become infinity. This become very small. It's a series. This series is written as from A to B. A and B is a boundary. So in the calculating this area AB, x equal A to x equal B, fx, if this function is fx, and dx. Okay, so it's kind of strange why you need dx. Dx is a minus b divided by n, right? And n goes infinity, so it's become smaller and smaller. So many dx here. Okay, and then you misunderstand. Is dx small? No. This is small, but once you translate it into this, dx is not small. This simply dy. This whole thing is dy, and you find the function that become y. Okay, the before derivatives y, and the plugging a and b, you get this. And this is the magic here. Why you rewrite this? This is integral, right? This is an integral. Definite integral is this one. Okay, and definite integral, why you write it this way? Because for most of the function, not all function, okay, most of the function, you can find indefinite integral function and plug in x equal a and x equal b, then you get this answer. That's why, and I said most of the function. Okay, and later you get the advanced integral courses. That's not always true. Okay. But most of the time, you can use indefinite integral function to calculate this guy. This is a definite integral. And definite integral is calculated using indefinite integral with value plugged in. Okay, that's what it is. Now later, you learn multivariable, right? U equals, U is a function of x and y. So if you write this way, x and y and z, right? And u is something like the curved space has plane contacting here. Okay, so how do you take a derivative for this? Okay, since this is two variable derivative, you cannot take a derivative arbitrarily. You make a line from this point parallel to x and parallel to y. Okay, and this derivative along this line is going to be this way, and it's going to be written as du dx. Now this is partial derivative, they call, okay, but still d, and this notation is strange, but it shows partial. That means it's a y is fixed, treated as a constant, right? This is x and y. Okay, now you can do same thing, derivative along y-axis, y, x, and y. Okay, so this is actually du divided by dy. Okay, nothing special, it's just a division, because along this new coordinate you take increment and calculate on this plane, okay, linear function plane, calculate the increment dy, du. Okay, now if you go any arbitrary direction, it's become du equals du dx plus du dy dy. It's very confusing when you read. It's just all d. So what happened is, this is x directions slope times increment on delta x dx, and slope on the y direction times increment dy becomes total increment du. This is all within that linear plane. Okay, so for example, if you have this direction du, you want to know increment, so the slope on the x direction times delta x dx, so move this direction and move this direction, and total increment is given by this. This is a linear equation. It's nothing but a linear equation for this plane. Okay, so that's pretty much the most of the confusing notation in calculus. The actually the Greek letter delta have this one, delta, and physics we use this delta often, and somehow this is not used in math. Instead this, and this is not a standard Greek character, right? Is it? This, as far as I know, it's not. This is a delta, and this is a delta. This is a Greek character. But this delta is used for this partial derivative. Okay? That's all for today. Please subscribe if you like it, and see you next time.